Football fans, picture this. You bet on your favorite player to score the first touchdown, and he throws an awesome block so his teammate can score instead. If this happens, BetMGM wants to give you another chance at the end zone. With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you'll get your stake back if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead. That's right, bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. Everyone knows the most exciting part of football is the score. With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you have a chance to keep the fun going after the first player crosses the goal line. Place a first touchdown score wager today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only, DC only. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards vary. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, it's me, Tyler. Bose open earbuds are stylish. The color, the way it looks almost like an earring, so I feel like it could go with anything. My style is very fun. I feel like I always look like I'm on holiday. I just really like playing around with it and tying it to the music. So yeah, I really feel like the music I'm making right now feels like a holiday, so I want to look like it too. Check out Bose.com for more.
Toyota has been building a legacy of excellence for years. From developing hybrid technology to upping the standards of safety and efficiency, Toyota is always innovating, always making progress. And with a superior lineup of in-stock SUVs, including the adventure-ready RAV4 and capable, affordable Corolla Cross, you can experience the legacy of Toyota for yourself. Visit buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals, to find out more. Toyota, let's go places.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this podcast in which we talk to people who are involved in independent music, punk, hardcore, metal, grindcore, power violence, all the subgenres. I don't care what it is, as long as it comes from small, sweaty rooms and then, maybe it gets into like larger rooms or stadiums or whatever. Who knows where the music travels? But what's important is that's important to us. Right? That's why you're here. Anyways, thank you very much for downloading the show. Truthfully, it means a lot to me because, the world is kind of generally on fire right now, and it's terrifying in many places. There's obviously glimmers of hope in many places, but just having this connection with you to keep me focused on the fact that I just want to celebrate independent music. I want to celebrate the people who are doing great things and communicating with you on a weekly dispatch. Really, it's a balm for the soul, so to speak. So anyways, truly, truly thankful for that. I'm also truly thankful for the guest this week. I have Katerina from Escuela Grind. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing her last name because I'm going to absolutely butcher it, and I do not want to do that to her. Katerina is an incredibly sweet person, awesome band, and I was really excited to have this conversation with her. We tried to hook up at the New England Metal and Hardcore Festival, but they were there for like a few hours and it did not work. But Katerina followed up with me on text and was like, hey, let's do it this day. And I just like it when bands are responsible, like following up with stuff. It's spectacular. So anyways, that's what we got for the show this particular week. But if you want to engage with the show on a deeper level, you can email me at 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I promise I see all them coming in. I'm a little late in responding to a few of you who have written, but I promise I will get back to you and appreciate the in-depth nature that some of you write in with in regards to like, this is what I'm currently listening to. I love this episode, like just, spiraling off in many different directions, but ultimately I really enjoy that dialogue. Also, you can leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page or just simply a rating on Spotify if you listen to it there. All of those things help the algorithm spit it out to other people who need to pay attention to the show. And I've seen you doing that. So thank you for contributing to the success of the show, because, that's just the only way that this will get in the appropriate ear holes of the other people that need to pay attention to it. So And weekly recommendations, I will include a link in the show notes, but all this year I've been talking about records and other things that have, inspired me, mostly records, let's be honest. And then I toss them all in a playlist, and that way you can hopefully engage with new music, sometimes old music that is new to me, but, regardless, hopefully it's new in some capacity to you. And this week is a old new release, I guess you would call it. It's old in the fact that both of these bands have existed for a long time. Quicksand and Hot Water Music. They just dropped a split, and it's 4 songs. They each cover 2 of each other's songs. So Hot Water Music covers 2 Quicksand songs. Quicksand covers 2 Hot Water Music songs. And it's awesome. I have always been a huge fan of splits. And then I've always been a huge fan of either collaborative splits or bands covering each other. I mean, I close my eyes and I can imagine listening to the Get Up Kids Coalesce split 7-inch where they cover each other's songs. And I just remember being like, I like both of these originals, but I think I like the covers even better. And it's great. So I was very excited to see this just to drop on streaming platforms and being like up for pre-order on vinyl. I find that more and more record labels and bands are just dropping stuff. And it's great because, they just is hopefully able to take over the discussion for that particular time period and have people excited about it. And then you have new music right away, as opposed to getting teased about it for months at a time, which I understand why bands do that. I get it. I've been a part of that machine as well. So anyways, check out the Quicksand Hot Water Music split. I think it's a 12-inch if I'm not mistaken, but it's streaming now and they're going on tour. So that's why they are doing this as a celebratory release, as it were. So, and released by Equal Vision. Shout out to Equal Vision. Great friends of the show. So let's go ahead and talk to Katerina from Escuela Grind, who is one of the hardest working bands out right now. And I'm glad to highlight them because they also just released a new record on Monarch Heavy that is exceptionally good. They've just continued to progress as a band. And, at one point was just very simply put a grindcore band, like nothing much really going on, and now they're adding layers to it because really that's what most bands should do. So you need to check out the new Escuela Grind record that is out now. So let's talk to Katerina. There's something that just really warms my soul when I see bands like you guys just completely killing yourselves on the road. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like the work ethic is very, very real with you. And I appreciate that from afar. It seems like something, especially when you guys formed the band, that the desire to be on the road 250 days out of the year was probably not in the cards. Was that something that you were maybe eventually trying to drive towards, or was it just like the snowball effect all of a sudden, oh, I guess we are booked out for, 9 months out of the year?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that in the mindset, the broad goals of the band, even from the beginning, was that. I don't know if it was necessarily quantity. I to be truthful, I never even saw myself playing for a band in the first place. I've always wanted to, but so any quantitative goal like that was kind of a pipe dream at the beginning for myself. I'm not speaking for my other bandmates, of course, but when we started out, we hit the ground running and maybe we didn't have as much time and we had other obligations like school and we were working many jobs at that point, but we hit the ground running and we were touring as much as we could from the get-go. It was like time we had a week off or we could kind of manufacture a few weeks or 3 weeks. We would take that and we would go tour, and a lot of that was booking ourselves. It was booking shows and throwing our band on there for better or worse. We did that for ourselves, and I'm really proud of that. And so I think that the very long answer to your question is no, but yes. I mean, in the spirit of the band, yeah, we were all in it. We were there, 250 shows or not. But in my own personal experience, wow, I would have never thought. It's so cool.
Sure. And honestly, that's why I asked that, because I know this is your first band experience. Even when you're talking about, whatever, 15, 16 years old and starting to, play out of town shows and stuff, you really don't have any conception of not only what tour is like, let alone playing, whatever, 20 shows in a row. And then all of a sudden you're there and it's like, how did I get here?
For sure, yeah. It feels like that sometimes. And we've had a lot of life arcs in the whole era of the band as well. So like it feels like eons, but yeah, it's so cool. What a life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and two, the fact that, many years were obviously removed, or 2 years were removed from you guys being able to like get out there. So the understanding of the fact that like once you were able to tour, it's like, oh yeah, like we got to get out there as much as we can, because we couldn't for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, that for sure. We were luckier than most bands during the pandemic because we all lived together. At the time, we were a three-piece. So it was myself, Jesse, and Chrissy, and we all lived together. And we worked on music all the time and watched videos all the time. So it was like, we were very lucky in that we had each other through it all.
Yeah, you were living it, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know you yourself, just kind of putting the lens on you, you were born and raised in Dallas, correct? Or is that completely misconstrued by me?
Yeah, well, close. So my partner and our bandmate Jesse, who's the drummer, they were born and raised in Dallas, Texas, in East Dallas. I moved to Dallas in around 2010, I think was the year. I left when right before we started this band. We moved to Ithaca, New York. So I moved. I'm originally from Western Massachusetts, as west as you can go in Massachusetts. And we live there now. It's called Pittsfield. So that's where I'm from. But I have some connection to Dallas.
It's funny because I look at the band and there are, especially now where, I mean, whatever, the past 15, 20 years of independent music existing on the internet, so you can't really tell like where a band is from unless they wave that flag really high, like,
Yeah.
And so you guys I've never been able to attribute to one particular area. It's just been like, oh yeah, we're kind of everywhere.
Hell yeah. I love that. It feels that way. We all come from different backgrounds and relatively different places in the States. So that's really cool to think about it that way.
Yeah. I know you are an only child, and I recognize that because I am an only child myself as well. And
Nice.
maybe maybe I'm playing a little, I wouldn't even call it armchair psychology, but just identifying where many people presume that we as only children are really lonely and are in our heads. And while there's probably some truth to that, how do you typify your experience as an only child?
I love that. I'm such an only child. It's very obvious, I think, when you talk to me and meet me and hang out with me in the best and worst ways of it. My experience is that only child from a kind of rural neighborhood. It's like where my family raised me. Kind of rural adjacent. I can't say that word. Rural adjacent. But like the school I went to was very suburban. So like I didn't really live close by my friends, and like they wouldn't spend the extra 15 minutes to get their parents to drive them out to where I was. So like if I was home, I was alone like that. I was outside. I was reading. I'm like a pre-internet kid. So it was mostly just books and art. But I was very, very lucky that my family is where we are, and I got to experience like a ton of art. Like in the area that we are, we had like theater and museums and land art and like all sorts of stuff. And my parents had a restaurant when I was little, and part of that restaurant was like acts would come and play, and we'd have comedy and like big bands and salsa nights and like all sorts of stuff. So I grew up around the entertainers, which was really cool. Like I kind of like, I was lonely like among my age group, but I had like a lot of elderly and adults people to always hang out with. So that definitely like that shaped me differently, I think, in a way. So, yeah, only child shit is very, very real.
I love that idea. What sort of restaurant did your family own? Like what cuisine?
I guess at the time, because it was the 90s, so like I guess you would call it New American back then. It was kind of like so the location is where my parents and I lived. It was like a historic tavern, like from the 1700s. But that, got passed on and passed on, passed on and passed on from owner to owner and owner. And eventually my parents took over it from Italian people from the city. Won't say mafia, but probably mafia. Um, but it was like, it's out there. It's rural. It's like a lot of people from New York City come to the area. So it was like a seasonal thing.
Was there any hope or desire that you were going to, I guess, carry on the family tradition of, like taking over the restaurant and working in that business? Okay.
Hell no, no. So like my dad's side, they're Greek, and like like the stereotype is like Greek diner or whatever. But my grandfather's generation, my papu, he's the one that came over here to the United States, and they had Howard Johnson's like diner in Eastern Mass, and he didn't even want my dad to do it, but my dad ended up like he just really wanted a restaurant, I guess, and like to be around that kind of entertainment. Like they're not like artsy people, like they don't make it themselves, but they appreciate it like my parents. So I think they just kind of wanted to be around that. Yeah, we had a lot of really cool stuff come through, like some famous comedians and whatnot before they were famous. So that's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say it because I know that many, especially you're talking about like restaurants that have like some sort of event space, like, the doors are wide open for anybody to do something there as long as it, isn't too disruptive.
Oh, I guarantee you they're talking about at least one of the spots was my parents' spot. Like, I don't know how my dad just knew like he got in touch with some comedy agent and was like, we want people to come down here. And like, if you have like a comedian that's like going to get booked in Boston, like try and send him our way. And like the agent was like, okay, if you want to play my club in Boston, you have to go out and play a show the night before in the Berkshires area. And they did. And oh my God, like, so there's stories about Bill Burr. He's one that came out and had like an awful time. Dane Cook, like before he was whatever he is, he was actually pretty cool. Like when he got famous, like he like donated something locally to like help you. He remembered the area well, so I think he was the only one. But anyways, that's like a lot of Western Massachusetts lore. But I thought that was definitely interesting.
Let's talk about our friends at evilgreed.net. They are an incredible merchandise provider for bands and record labels based in Berlin, Germany. But what makes them special is a few different things. One, we in the United States should not be scared in ordering internationally from this company and frankly many other companies, but I'll digress. In Evil Greed, they handle all of this stuff very, very well, very professionally, get it to you lickety split. But on top of it, the shipping rates are very advantageous for us here in the States. So that's just calming any fears you have from ordering from Berlin, Germany. But on top of it, they have a very specific point of view. They cover, I would say, a good 80 to 90% of the bands that we have discussions with here. It's incredible what they do. They have a very curated point of view in regards to the people that they work with, whether it's, Portrayal of Guilt, Gulch, Triple B Records, Flat Spot. Like if you are dialed into the heavy music community, as it were, you will find so much to order from them, from shirts, sweatshirts, vinyl, so many things. It's spectacular. And like I said, all from a heavy music point of view. So if you're a fan of the show, you need to go to evilgreed.net and check out all of the great stuff that they have. So go do that right now and order. And then, maybe email me. Be like, yo, I got this thing from Evil Greed and this is great. Thanks for the reco. So evilgreed.net, go have fun shopping. And especially too, where it's like you as a kid could get all these different experiences of seeing, not only live music, but then stuff you probably, wouldn't be allowed to see if it wasn't at your family's restaurant, where it's just like, oh, I guess I'm seeing a salsa night. And then the next night is a stand-up comedy show. Like you're getting all of this input.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I love, and like we had it was a stage, but there was it was pretty cool. So there would be, like a political satire show that incorporated music and theater, and I got my theater kid dose with that. I was a theater kid in school too, so all of that I'm very, very lucky to have had all of that, and for better or worse in the development of my teen years.
Yeah. It's funny you say that you were a theater kid, because I literally was going to ask that question, because I do think that a lot of people get the sort of the performance taste, being in their school plays or whatever. And then when it comes to playing in a band, there's at least some level of comfort of being in front of people because of that experience.
Oh yeah. No, I think I credit that a lot because I really don't have that much musical experience. Like I took guitar lessons and stuff, and I would do like recitals, and I would do like choir singing, but music for me is it's not like supernatural for me. Like I don't just pick it up right away. Like I really have to work at it, and I'm not ashamed in saying that. Like it's just not a natural thing for me. I love it. I recognize it. I understand like when something's good, I think, but in order for me to be remotely competent or successful at something musically, I really have to try and practice. So at least that aspect of being a front person is kind of addressed when you're out in front of people that young, exactly like you said. Yeah.
That's really cool. Did you care, like going into, junior high, high school and stuff like that? Did you, care about school? Did you get okay grades? Did you, quote unquote, apply yourself as, all the guidance counselors say?
I love school. I still love school. I'm like a total nerd. This is like ruining my street cred, my reputation. This is, I'm a theater kid and a nerd. Yeah. No, I loved school. I don't know. I'm one of those hyper focused people. I love structure. Like I love learning. I wanted to be like, the first kid to read a book. I wanted to like do really good. I just like, it was something that I was praised for, like, and, being an only child sort of thing, we kind of latch on to like the things that garner us attention from others or that you're praised for. So I just kind of picked up with that early. I went to a really well-funded public school, very small class, 55 kids. I had all of the band instruments I could want to take home. I had all the art supplies I wanted. It was like, it was everything that I could want to do. I really liked school a lot. And, when you're a teenager and stuff, of course, the social aspect of that gets to you. Like, yeah, I'm going to school with the same 55 kids for 13 years is like, of course, it's not great. I won't say I would have like amazing high school memories or anything like that, but I was really, really privileged to have gone to a school that had so much to offer in terms of the arts.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with you understanding like what you were getting out of it, whether it was, like you said, being able to, bring instruments home, and understanding that you thrive under structure. And it's like you just learning that in, high school are all incredibly important things like that. Some people don't learn until they're like, 40, maybe. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I had a lot of time to think by myself in my room all alone in high school.
On that tip, what would you say, like when you were, developing your identity and, obviously a theater kid and like, you could be an introvert and an extrovert probably at the same time on the sliding scale. Were you, I guess, kind of, experimenting with a bunch of, clothing styles, like where you're like, all right, I'm a punk person here, and like I'm a theater person here. Like, what were you experimenting with, so to speak?
I had a phase in middle and high school where I was like almost, well, I know what it is now and I know why I did it now, but like I looked at every day like it was costume day, and I would be like, all right, today's theme is witch, and I would like do that. And then, I was like, today I'm going to be Bam Margera. And that was that. Or like, I'm going to do Rococo or what. Like that was my existence for a while. Now I know it's like, this was kind of like not understanding what like gender spectrum and that sort of expression, like not understanding like what non-binary means to me, and to my community and whatnot. Now I'm kind of understanding like, that's what that was. Like I just love the costume of what I do. Like expression to me is sort of in that way. I can play it up in any way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then I was like, oh, I'm just like, having fun with clothes, and that's helping me express myself. I always liked heavier music, but I like a lot of different types of music. So maybe that was also influential on me in those earlier years. But yeah, I was voted best dressed in high school, so that's kind of cool.
Ooh, yeah, and I think truthfully too, I mean, that's the fun part, looking back of being a kid, is just like doing all of these really expressive and or silly things, because, like no one's going to penalize you. People are just going to look at you being like, oh, there's a dumb kid wearing a Hawaiian shirt or whatever. And it's like, that's fine, because that's just, who kids are. As long as they're obviously not harming others while they're doing it, then just let them, let their freak flag fly, whatever that may mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was always a fan of that. I'm proud to say that, there was a few kids that pushed the boundaries. Granted, a really small school, but there was a few of us that definitely were kind of weirder and expressed ourselves in ways. I wouldn't say I was the weird kid or anything like that, but I always made it a point to never give in to what all the other kids would do back then, of making fun of the others, like the goth kids or whatnot, because I saw myself in them in a way, and I think they ended up becoming the coolest kids that I knew from high school and people that I would still hang out with. So yeah, kids can be mean.
Oh, absolutely. Not breaking news there, but yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
When you started to discover music, as far as the more, independent DIY, punk, hardcore, metal, whatever you want to call it, I know a lot of that was coming from when you moved to Dallas. And I know you've articulated in other interviews a band Converge was big for you. But how did you start getting introduced to that, more independent variety? Was that just basically because, Dallas was obviously a larger city and then you started to see it around, or did friends pull you into shows?
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that where we live today, Pittsfield, we did have one record store and a string of places before that had DIY shows, and we had really amazing bands come through. Just the problem was that no one was really going out to see them. Drop Dead came and played. I don't even know if there was 25, 30 people there. Maybe I'm Agnostic Front came, fucking Tiger's Jaw came, and there was less than 5 people there. So it sucked, but we tried, and there were eras in which it was better for worse or whatever. So I had a little taste of it from my hometown in this small record store that my friend used to run, which was amazing. I knew I wanted more, but I'm kind of shy socially, and I very much was at the time. Didn't have the right group of friends. Bad scene. So, when I moved to Dallas, I was very, not discouraged, but I was a little discouraged in that I had such a bad experience with older people that brought me into the music back home. And I was still kind of affiliated. It was just messy. And when I moved to Dallas, I had no support net. I had nothing. So I was working all the time and I was going to school. So I didn't really have time for shows. But all it took was one friend that I met just by working a waitressing gig. I just met someone that I knew was into the same music I was into, and I became friends with him and his girlfriend, and they just started kind of taking me under their wing, and it started with going to bigger club shows and seeing indie acts there, and then we got into the local there was several taquerias in town that would have music at them, and that was mostly due to my now partner bandmate Jesse, who booked shows there at the taquerias in town, and I was seeing exactly the bands that I wanted to see, bands like the bands that I saw in the record store back home, that kind of a level, but from all over, from the South, from New England, just it was such a cool scene, and it was really special. We had so much fun. The taqueria shows were some of the best nights of my life. Like, they were so much fun. So I really do credit that atmosphere. Of course, the house shows in Dallas were really fun. We had a friend, Sloppy Joe. He's no longer with us, but he was just such a fun dude. And he would have shows at his house. And, all the street punks would be there. And it's like, I'm not like the biggest street punk fan, but I would go to their shows because, like, how much fun did we have? And it was good. It's good music. It's good music to get in the moment with and stuff. So I really broadened my experience of going to shows while I was in Dallas. And it really just took meeting one person to make me feel comfortable enough to start going to them and to going to bigger festivals like Chaos and Tejas I think at the time they called it Fun Fest was that's what it was called. And, stuff in Austin and just all that. Like it was really, I do have to credit that small, fun local scene for so much.
I am privileged and honored to work with MaddVintage, who is a great reseller of amazing old/vintage, gently worn shirts from your favorite bands, whether it's metal, hardcore, punk, whatever it is. They have something that you are most likely into. Now, I love band merch, like full stop. I wear that 99% of the time. And I was able to find pieces of merch on his site that I was just like, I've never even seen these before at reasonable prices. Because let's be honest, when you walk into a thrift store, they are gouging you because they know what to charge for, a vintage t-shirt of frankly any band at this point. But MaddVintage not only is finding you the goods, but then delivering it to you at a reasonable cost. So go to maddvintage.com, check out what they have. They add new shirts on the daily. And on top of that, if you have shirts that you are looking to sell right now, go over to MaddVintage, hit him up on Instagram, and they will be able to take a look at what you got. And he is always searching. So let all that funnel into your brain. Go to maddvintage.com, sell your old shirts to him. Buy some cool shirts. Like I got an old Damnation AD shirt that I was so thrilled about. So go there and tell them that this show sent you. Plus, Dallas was such a diverse, to your point, music scene where it's like, you had great, cool, hardcore bands from Texas, Iron Age and what have you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you would have all of this other stuff like, the street punk stuff that would exist. And it's like all of that was part of the same stew, whereas like other places, might have been more bifurcated where it's like, okay, yeah, you're a hardcore kid, only go to hardcore shows.
Iron Age, I'm glad you brought them up because I literally never want that band to be forgotten. They were the first band that I saw in Texas because I'm a little bit of a, being from the North, Masshole, that whole thing, like maybe a little bit snobby, but I was like, oh, our dancing was like, we like fucking dance so hard. Our music is so hard. Like the North, like we're like so badass. We brought all the greatest hardcore bands and whatnot. Okay, that was all good and well, but like the first time I saw Iron Age live and I was in the pit and I got my shit rocked. Like I got rocked and like that pit was violent. Oh, it was so much fun. And like Wade, such a fucking rock star, like all of them, like, oh, I love that band. I mean, I got to see the beginning of Power Trip too, not the very beginning, but like when they first started blowing up, like that was amazing. And like real badass metal bands, like the quality of musicianship and like so many amazing musicians in Texas that aren't even in bands that you know of, you know what I mean?
Totally. And especially too with that confluence of all of these different, bands coming together and people all pulling from the same, Dallas metropolitan area. Mm-hmm. You had people that brought in so many different influences and it was like, totally that was just what happened in that scene. And that's why so many people continue to pay attention to it of what you're talking about, where it's like, really people shouldn't necessarily remember a band like Iron Age. I mean, we would, but then broader terms, like there's a lot of people that wouldn't, but it still persists because people are just like, damn, that's a weird band. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Dude.
Yeah. When you moved up to, made the decision to move up to Ithaca for college and everything like that, that's obviously when the band started. And it was, like we said at the beginning, your first band. Was that primarily because, obviously circumstances brought you to that place, and then the desire to, all right, I guess we'll play in a band together. Was that something that occurred to you before, but you didn't feel like you had, for lack of a better term, the space to do it, or was it just the fact that the circumstances were easier up in Ithaca?
That's interesting. I never really sat back and thought of, I guess, how that happened, or why it took so long, or what the circumstances of events. So we didn't start Escuela right away when we moved to Ithaca. There was some time, and we took the time to get into our new life there. It was myself going to school, and Jesse started going to school again, which was very important. And we kind of focused on that for a while, and that kind of ate our minds. And so hence Escuela being very symptomatic of the time, because we were in that environment in a town that's just structured around school, everything about Ithaca, school. What are the kids doing? What's the college doing? XYZ. So I don't really know if it was. I know that we were depressed because our lives were so different, and we didn't really know how to switch it up in a way. So much of our lives is switched, and for we were probably, if not definitely, depressed. But the band literally started when so before we had even moved to Ithaca, I reached out. I literally I went on Google and I said grindcore Ithaca, New York. And one person's name popped up more than once. And it was a person, Bubba Crumrine is their name. And from that, I reached out on Facebook, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Dude, we're super into grindcore. We're moving into town. I can't wait to meet y'all. And from that, I found out that Bubba ran a group called Ithaca Underground, and they threw DIY shows, was a co-op. They got grants and stuff. They did all sorts of different things. They had a great, motto, credo, I guess you could call it. They had a mission statement, if you will. It was inclusive, and it was really exciting. So, we moved to Ithaca, and I get to see Cloud Rap play, and ACXDC, all bands that I love, and I knew ACXDC before. It was just so cool that they were in my town, and granted, there wasn't that many people there, and there weren't that many heavy bands in town, but I did meet our original guitar player, Seven, at, I think it was the it was a Cloud Rat show. And then Jesse met them later at the ACXDC show. And Seven and us, we just hit it off because we were the grindcore kids in town. We just started hanging out, and Jesse and Seven started just jamming, and they were writing a song every practice. And then the jamming, I don't think it was supposed to be a band. I think it was just supposed to be fun. And then eventually it became, oh, let's do an actual band, and who should we get to sing? And Jesse suggested me. I said yes, and that was that.
Sure. When you first, usually people, and I'm not throwing shade towards your direction in regards to being a singer. Usually it's okay, this person can play guitar, this person can play bass, we have a drummer. And I guess you could probably yell into a mic because you've been on stage or whatever before. Did you feel like you had any, I wouldn't say skill, but just was it the sort of fearlessness of just being well, whatever, I'm probably gonna be terrible at this, but I'll just try initially and see where it goes?
Yeah. Well, I sing all the time, and Jesse knew I could sing clean for forever since I knew him. But I've recently found this out, that Jesse thought of me originally because they remembered how we would go out and do karaoke, and no matter how drunk I got, I would get up there and I would fucking belt out karaoke shit, and I would scream occasionally over karaoke songs and rap and stuff. But they remembered it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad if that's the case. So that was what I was told, was how they kind of knew that I could do it without really trying it out. But, there was no stakes involved at the time. It was all just for fun. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. The goal was so simple back then. And it was just write songs, this very narrow scope of what kind of songs they were going to be. They were going to be power violence-y, grind songs, simple, to the point, and like get out there and play shows.
Yeah, there was no expectations. It was simply just let's have some fun and play some shows.
Yeah.
When I know that you are an architect by trade, is that actually what you went up to school to Ithaca for, or was that another reason that you were pursuing?
Yeah, that's right. I did. I have a degree. Why I went, not 100% why I went down to Texas, but one of the reasons why I went down to Texas is I got my undergrad degree from the University of Texas in art history. And I always knew that I wanted to be an architect. So I chose the path of going and getting my master's degree in architecture and then taking the class. It was a little bit longer, but I ended up doing it. And I was very, very lucky to get into Cornell. That's like, was a very large achievement for me. That was not, I don't know how it happened, truthfully. But I did ask the person that reviewed my portfolio, like, why they picked me, and they were like, I don't know, we need like a weird kid. Basically was like their words. I think they were joking with me, but I think there was some truth to it. So
Sure.
I got my master's in Ithaca for architecture, and that is what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you started to pursue the band life stuff, and I presume even before that, your parents probably looked at the stuff that you were maybe bringing home or getting into as like, what is she getting into? I don't understand this. Were they not judgmental, but were they, concerned about the fact that you're, starting a grindcore band and architecture was maybe going to be in the rear view at some point?
Maybe. I've always kind of had that double life. They always kind of knew, like, that I was like, I wasn't the best kid in high school. I would like sneak out all the time and go to shows, and they would catch me like all the time. Like no matter what, I was finding a way to be that kid. I wasn't that bad, but So I mean, they kind of knew, like, no matter how hard they tried to suppress that kind of stuff, like I would always find my way to it. Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, I was working while I had the band for a long time. I would get a certain amount of, vacation days, but it was never enough to where we were touring. I was working remotely and touring at the same time. So a good portion of our tours after COVID, I was doing like almost 9 to 5 hours Monday through Friday, and then like playing shows every night too, which was a lot. It was too much. But it happened. I did it. I was able to do it. And eventually it just got to the point where my boss literally was like, piss or get off the pot, like with the music thing. 'Cause like I'm retiring and you're like clearly like doing this music thing more than anything else you're doing. So, and that gave me the motivation to, quit my job and go full force into it. And of course, we were doing well enough to where that wasn't like too much of a risk. So I felt pretty comfortable with that. But yeah, it was definitely like an interesting conversation to be had with my parents. I think, like, granted, I'm in my 30s now. So like they kind of, I think they're thinking about other things. I think they're like, fine, do your band or whatever, but like, when am I going to get like a grandkid, and like, where am I going to die? So like, that's kind of.
Totally. Well, and especially too, where it's like, okay, you have been a, relatively pragmatic person, and, you've done all of the things that you're sensibly supposed to do with your life, as far as, all right, I have a piece of paper that says I'm smart. I, worked a job and all these things, but like, I'm going to do this band stuff now. And it's like, I'm a grown ass woman. Like, sorry, like, this is just what you're going to have to accept, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. You said it, not me. I'd be too scared to tell my parents that.
No,
No,
of course. Yeah. Well, just let me know. I'll give them a call for you. That's fine. Kind of going back to that, because I know that many people that are in bands experience exactly what you're talking about, of that, like, leading dual lives, where it's like, trying to, especially people that have some sort of job that has, a career attached to it. And it's like, I mean, I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, so many, graphic designers sitting in the van being like, oh, I got to turn this in before before doors open or whatever. Was it difficult for you to kind of have that fork in the road moment of being like, all right, I guess like I can't pursue this. I mean, like you said, your boss kind of gave you no choice in the matter, but was it difficult to arrive to that conclusion?
Yes, I have an obsessive personality in that way, and that when I start something, if it never gets finished, or if it feels like it's unfinished, or if I feel like if I feel like I'm failing at something, like I worry a lot, or I just get very extra with it. So I did feel like I was like quitting on something. Like, I mean, I was quite literally quitting, but I just felt like, like, I don't know. I hate letting people down. I hate leaving things unfinished. I want it to be good for everyone and make everyone happy. And like, you always put yourself to the side when you're like that. You're not making yourself happy. Now I realize, like, every fork in the road, every challenge, which you will, like some moral challenge, some, totally not related to anything emotional, something as like quitting a job, like that has been building my character for a long time, and helping me to like let go of things a little bit easier, and become a little less obsessive compulsive about things. It's definitely an ongoing journey, I'll say that. But
Rockabilia.com is my favorite place to look for officially licensed band merch from bands like, I'm just going to run through. Like, we are talking a wide gamut that they work with, whether it's Black Sabbath, Alice in Chains, Slipknot, Ghost, or if you're like, you know what, I'm a horror buff, I love Terrifier. How about they have a whole merch line for Terrifier? It's so cool what they have going on. Ships from the Midwest here in the United States of America. But most importantly, you need to use this promo code to get you 10% off of your entire order. And that is 100 words or less. 100 words or less is the promo code, 10% off. Boom, nailed it, done. And trust me, if you are going to their website, you are going to get lost in the best way possible in all of their officially licensed stuff. No bootlegs. That means the bands get paid, you win because you get cool merch, and the company is continuing to operate in business and making sure that you are outfitted with the coolest stuff possible. Shop for gifts, shop for yourself, whatever it is. Rockabilia has it, and I love working with them. So again, promo code is 100 words or less. That's the number 100, and you'll be able to get 10% off your order. So rockabilia.com for all the goods. That actually segues into a question I was going to ask in regards to, I mean, no matter what, I don't care, boy, girl, trans, whatever, like the singer of a band is always going to get the focal point, and people are going to, be paying attention to that more closely than others. As you started to kind of receive that attention, good, bad, everything in between, how did you navigate it? Was it, I guess, surprising? Was it something that you had to, like, you had to play a show and then immediately, run away to like decompress for a little bit? Walk me through how you started to deal with that attention.
well, I think that it's overall been a really net positive for me. Um, I don't know, without going too TMI, when I was younger, I found myself to be very free and very extroverted in the way that I was just goofy and out there and just really like myself in that way. And in my later teen years and throughout my 20s, I really let the opinions of others and my peer group and bad bad scenes and bad relationships and whatnot, I really let that like close me off. I became a lot more introverted. I shied away from compliments because compliments meant something was wanted or expected of me in this context. So why wouldn't it mean that in another context? Stuff like that. So I find that playing shows and receiving that attention again in this different, for lack of a better word, I guess, power dynamic, because now I have a little bit of power in the sense that I'm up there presenting something. I'm, taking that center stage again, literally. Like, that has been, the exposure of that has really been helping me get back to my, original, like, goofy self, and becoming more comfortable and just accepting all the good and bad of what people have to say about me and my performance and my art and all of this. And then it's been a net positive and very helpful in personal development. And, it just, I wouldn't know how to help someone with that if they didn't have art or a platform to speak on. I like really, that's, I think, interesting to me, is like trying to like make that feeling attainable for everyone, even if you don't have an art or a platform to speak on, because like I feel really good right now, and I feel like no matter what bad or comes our way, no matter what criticism or even compliment, because apparently that was difficult for me to take in the past, like being this new version of myself, and then trying to like lean more into the role of a front person in the classic sense. Like I'm really trying, like especially now, to 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 do more, to be more engaged with our fans, to open myself up a little bit more to them, because we're we're out there. Like these are our fans, these are our friends now, and they love our art. So I think they want to know a little bit more about me and about the band, and that's really hard. Coming to this new realization of being able to return to my quote unquote original self, but also having to be more open with everyone, and leaning into the role of being a front person. So it's a lot.
Sure. It's something you're literally in the middle of.
Yeah, for sure. And our label is amazing. Like they're being very helpful with me, because they're like, hey, like this is a transition period. Like, we see so many other bands like that have like what you have, and they're able to do this. Like, let's get you there. And like, I really appreciate that from them, because like, I mean, they obviously know that I'm a little like, I'm fresh. I'm fresh with that. So they've been really helpful. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, and that's good that you can have people who not only can bring experience to what it is that you're experiencing, but then also be, there to support or be critical when they need to be, because otherwise, you're just existing in your own head and constantly, questioning yourself, being like, is this decision right? I don't know. No one else can tell me anything.
For sure. Yeah.
Looking at the, the idea of now entering the band's life, that it is a business now, and you have to take into all these considerations of the fact that it's like, oh, we're getting paid X amount of dollars to play a show, so will this add up to our tour budget, and can we make rent? And do you like the business aspect of the band, or is it one of those things where it's kind of a necessary evil in order to obviously keep the business going?
Yeah, I would lean more towards the former. I guess it is a necessary evil. I'm a worrier, a number cruncher. I will sit there and like look at that spreadsheet for far too long and create way too many scenarios out of it. Like, not good creatively to be beholden to that kind of stuff. But I also want to make sure everyone's okay, and everyone's like gonna make it. And then, we're all in this together. Like at the end of the day, me and my three best friends, like me and my fourth best friends, we all gotta fucking like figure out if we're gonna be able to like come home, like you said, and make it, and make rent, and pay our bills, and pay our vendors and all that sort of stuff. So we operate with a small team. I do a lot of that stuff, me and Jesse, on our own, and it gets really stressful, and I do kind of hate it, but also it's like, who else is gonna do it? Like if you're not watching out for yourself and for your at the end of the day, your expenses, like this shit can get very real very quickly. And I've heard stories from other bands on how it tore them apart. Money's a fucking shitty thing. I haven't always been great with money, and Jesse and I have had our experiences of booking shows that, we couldn't pay for, and fucking failing miserably and stuff. But like, show still goes on, right? So
Totally. If that means going to the ATM at the end of the night and taking $500 out of your checking account, that's what it's going to be.
very relatable.
Last two things I wanted to hit on was the, idea of, like you said, being a band that, actually has an opinion, and you're not shying away from, whatever issue, people may disagree with you on in some capacity. And that obviously is what makes, punk, hardcore, grindcore, metal, whatever you want to call it, important. Did you feel, I guess, a reticence towards leaning too hard into it? I mean, you'll make your opinion expressed, but is it one of those things where it's like, no, we never even thought about being another way?
Yeah, so here's the thing about that is I've been thinking about that a lot. And, we had our whole existence. So I was thinking about this actually this morning, and I was like, I knew that the tides have turned from our band in the way that we were booked when we stopped getting booked with just any band that had a girl in it to being booked with bands that sounded like us. And so that was like my first moment. But anyways, to get back to like the original question of it, is like I don't even think that at any point was that even like a choice for us. You know what I mean? Like there's bands that can come and go, and depending on who they're comprised of, they'll never have to think of those questions or respond to it, or they'll never have been assumed to have had any beliefs either which way. And just who we are, it being, non-binary, queer, we have a trans member, we have brown people in our band, like we are beholden to something from the moment that you look at us or the moment that you realize who we are, and all of your loaded like beliefs about whatever those things are come into play. So it's never been a choice. I think out of the gate, maybe I felt a little bit more pressured to represent something more than I might have been comfortable with in ways, to the point of maybe it distracted from what I was trying to do musically or what our band was trying to do musically. So yeah, maybe I did feel a little bit pressured to go above and beyond in ways, just because there was fewer people when we started that were representing, in the general scheme of things. Like it, from when we started to now, it's like a renaissance of like, every marginalized group of people now has a band that can represent them well and in the mainstream, like in a lot of ways. I won't say every group, maybe that's a little facetious, but like it's becoming more of the norm now. So that's such a hard question to answer, because like it's so deeply embedded in who we are and our identity politic that we can never be removed from it. And like it was frustrating when we started, because I was like, damn, I just want to like talk about my music. And like, it seems like every interview, it's like, what's it like to be a girl in hardcore? And isn't it, what's the most misogynist thing that's ever happened to you, or whatever, XYZ, or like, what do you feel about like this? So yeah, maybe that's hard, because it's like, how can you be resentful about something that you're representing proudly? Like I'm proud to be who I am. I'm proud of my background. Proud of how I present and my queerness and my all of that. But I don't want to be reduced to that, if that makes sense to you. I don't want to be tokenized in any way as well. So I feel like we've done leaps and bounds in getting away from that over the short lifespan of how long this band has been around. It's been night and day. So I'm just very grateful that we're at the place that we're at now, and that new bands that are coming up with these younger kids, they might get discouraged less and might be able to be all of the expressions of who they are. If they want to lean into the political side of things, they are absolutely enabled and welcome to. If that's not comfortable for them, they don't have to. It can be about the music for them. It can be about an aesthetic or a persona even too. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just that notion that when you are looking out in the landscape of whatever scene or subculture that you're in, and when you see, just one or two people doing the thing that you want to be doing, it's exciting and you just want to be included.
well, yeah, I felt that way about people I saw in my like general vicinity when I was a kid. It all it took was one person, like one local ish musician to me, that made me go like, like this is so cool. I want to be that. I want to do that. And her
Yeah.
name's Megan Minier. She's badass. Her band was Ampere. They were fucking dope. So that's that.
Incredible band.
Hell yeah.
The last thing I want to hit was the the fact that, I mean, clearly everybody that's ever been, the main character, side character of the internet has gone through that, wave of emotions that's hit where it's like, oh my gosh, all this criticism for something that is, seemingly pretty insignificant when you're talking about, what other people are experiencing, in the world. As you have kind of gone through those things, what have you learned about like yourself as you're processing this, where it's like, oh, it looks like I'm the internet's punching bag today or whatever? How do you just take it in stride now? Is it one of those things you've had to, kind of like learn how to cope with certain aspects of that criticism? How have you, I guess, navigated that?
Yeah, I hesitate to like ever even talk about it because like you said, there's so many other fucking problems in the world. Like my struggles are, most people would kill to be in a position that I'm in a band like this that, that they never thought they could be in a band in. But I will say it fucking sucked. It was awful. It was the worst I felt, for a myriad of reasons. But, at the risk of sounding like boo-hoo me, it sucked. No one should, I don't wish anyone to go through the roller coaster of emotions that is. What sucked the most is being misunderstood. No one likes to be misunderstood, and like it or not, we represent a group, as in Escuela Grind. We represent our label. We represent all these things, and it's very hard to keep your mouth shut when like crazy things are being said about you, but it's for the best. And we go through our moments of having clapback moments and whatnot, but navigating is hard. And I won't pretend like I know the right answer or I have done the right thing. No one's perfect. We've certainly done a lot of things wrong. And I like to try and recognize where I do wrong things and come clean about that. Being the main character, yeah, I don't know. You have to be quite strong for it, I think, or at least have a strong like network of people that care for you, because you really truly find out who are your friends and who your family is in the times that are tough like that, when it's not, like, and when there's moments when it's not socially acceptable to, be with someone, who really comes for you and makes sure that you're okay. I won't say that's what happened to us because I think that's a little extreme, but maybe I can relate, I guess, in some way to like people that have expressed that before. And I really wish I had better answers for how to handle things and that, but it's just like the quickness of transformation of energy and messages and whatnot, and our whole social media life has totally changed the way that we react to each other. And one thing that can be perceived and seen as one way one day can totally be the wrong solution for someone else going through something similar another day. It's every transaction, every instance of communication is so instantaneous now that we're constantly changing. And I think that's good. I think that's great. And I think we need to hold each other accountable for things. I certainly needed to be held accountable for certain things. And I'm like a very forgiving person. So I understand. I understand why people get mad. I understand vitriol and mob mentality, but I also understand how easily things can be manipulated too. So long-winded answer, but it's like...
It's, I mean, to put a button on that, like, yes, there is no answer because, each situation is so drastically different. And like, even though the responses to the way that people handle them, especially when people are just doing the drive-by pile-ons, it is so incredibly frustrating to what you're talking about, of just all of these people are looking at this, whatever it may be, devoid of context, and just commenting and having very little to do with, what you or the band is actually doing. And it's like, these are people, the most critical voices on the internet would literally never even go to an Escuela Grind show.
Yeah,
They
it's
would
always
never.
been like that.
Totally.
But I will
And
say, like, through it all, with time and space, there comes a sort of clarity of things, and we all, like everyone involved in that, apart from the people that I, don't speak to anymore or don't plan to, like we all went through something together, and we all were in a fucking crazy mental state. I mean, the year before that was crazy for our band. We did over 250 shows, and like we did them like. When we were in the States, we drove ourselves. Like I did our merch. We hurt like we hurt ourselves. We were exhausted and we were not mentally well. So like, I'm proud that, as a band recently, we all got together, each on our own, and we all like worked out like our bullshit with each other. And like, we welcomed back our bassist and second guitarist Tom into like the picture last weekend. We had like a great time. We played a dope set. Like he's gonna come on tour with us again. We're humans. We're fucking flawed. We're weirdos. Like we're musicians. Like musicians are like the weirdest people I know, honestly. Like maybe theater kids a little weirder, but yeah, like musicians are weird. And I'm just glad that, despite all of the bullshit, like there's still at least some human to human like connection that we all have, and like we still can be flawed with each other, and like we really truly understand each other like no one else can understand each other. So like that was really positive. I'm glad that happened. I'm thrilled actually because it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called trauma bonding,
Yeah, for sure. A European tour will do that to you, let alone 3 in 1 year. So, yeah.
There we go. That was Katerina, and what a great chat. I love the fact that this band not only just grinds it out, like musically and obviously work ethic, but there's just so many ways that they could go. They can play with metal bands, hardcore bands, like everything in between. And I really enjoy bands that blur the lines between all of these things. So anyways, huge shout out to Katerina. Thank you for coming on the show. And next week, I've got a great chat with Stin, the bass player from Chat Pile. I had Reagan, the vocalist, maybe about a year and a half or so ago. Can't exactly remember, but Chat Pile is a new record, and I wanted to speak to Stin. I got to speak to him on another podcast that I do, and he was a great hang. So we decided to repeat this for this particular show. So next week, Stin from Chat Pile. Until then, please be safe, everybody.
This podcast is supported by BetterHelp, offering licensed therapists you can connect with via video, phone, or chat. Here's BetterHelp Head of Clinical Operations Hesyu Joe discussing who can benefit from therapy.
I think a lot of people think that you're supposed to be going to therapy once you're like having panic attacks every day, but before you get to that point, I think once you start even noticing that you feel a little bit off and you can't maintain this harmony that you once had in relationships, that could be a sign that maybe you want to go talk to somebody. There's always a benefit in talking to someone because we can all benefit from improved insight about ourselves and who we are and how we behave with other people. So if you're human, that's like a good indicator that you could benefit from talking to somebody.
Find out if therapy is right for you. Visit BetterHelp.com today. That's BetterHelp.com.
Meet the Bose Ultra Open Earbuds, a reinvention of what earbuds could be, and the perfect gift for the music lover in your life. Hear life and music at the same time. Go to Bose.com/iHeart to shop now.
Toyota has been building a legacy of excellence for years. From developing hybrid technology to upping the standards of safety and efficiency, Toyota is always innovating, always making progress. And with a superior lineup of in-stock SUVs, including the adventure-ready RAV4 and capable affordable Corolla Cross, you can experience the legacy of Toyota for yourself. Visit buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals, to find out more. Toyota, let's go places.
Vitamin Water is from New York. We needed a drink that can keep up with the music scene in the city. We gotta see our favorite DJ perform in Brooklyn at 3 a.m. or sing karaoke in the Village, also at 3 a.m. Drink Vitamin Water. It's from New York.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night. And building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica. Empathy is our best policy.